think what happened is when we were talking the last couple times, I started to hear these themes that I think every single one of us faces. You faced it, I face it, your dad faced it, but am I enough? What does that look like? I'm not enough. I won't be that. And I tuck my shoulder and I start to define an identity and build an identity not on towards something, not maybe informed by a higher perspective, but I'm going to not be that. So I start to build it. And then I have shame. And after shame, there comes the fear of fraud. And I probably just touched on everybody maybe nearing midlife that walks through that journey of going, will I ever be enough? I'm ashamed of where I came from, and I'm tucking my shoulder to try to outrun that shadow. And then it gets to the point where they're going to find out at some point. It's not going to be enough. That, when you talk about 10 years of life, not cultivating the true identity. Talk about the false self versus the true self. We just spent a decade of life hustling to try to outrun this shadow. Take us to nearing this midway point, this 47 point, when that identity that had been built, that container that had been built, started to not be enough. You started to say, this is not what it's all about. This is not, what was it that kind of started to crumble? Or maybe it was Kristen that said, you're losing, in your pursuit of being enough, in your pursuit of trying to move us down the road in that perspective, or keep climbing that ladder so that you find the top. What started to diminish, or how did you become conscious of the fact that there's something else that I'm not either attending to or that's diminishing actually?
Well, it's a great question. I wish there was a moment or one symbol. I think what it is that if I was finding my value really in my title, the influence or the organization that I could lead, the results I would get, the accolades and praise or respect I got, or the paycheck, which were rising up, it's like an addiction that like more and more doesn't give you the same rush as when I got my first job at P&G. And so you get this next new job, and then you're actually like, suck it up more. You can do it. You've got to keep this going. And you get there and you're like, this is exponentially more work, and it is not exponentially more. And you start to say, what am I doing? And so I don't know, there was a moment, I think one was laying in Tokyo where I was literally working a US day and a Japanese day, and I slept 2 hours in between. And when I woke up from my 2-hour nap, they were upset with me in the US that I was 5 minutes late for a call, even though I had just worked a full day. And I thought, there's not enough of me for you people. Like, I'll never be enough. Like, it's impossible. Because in addition to all that, they were like, and the board of directors deck is due tomorrow. And I was like, and when am I going to get that done? Because I've got a whole day in US conference calls. And I booked my calendar. If you just literally looked at it, it was 22 solid hours. And in there, I was going to do a board of directors deck. And I remember being like, impossible. And then the guilt of, trying to connect with my kids, and the messages started getting shorter and shorter. They were not oh, Dad, let me tell you all about this, and da-da-da. It wasn't the relational. It was like, we're fine, when do you get home? But it wasn't the warm. So those were little signs.
When that stuff started happening, were you so immersed in just the cross pressure of the world you were in that you kind of just, those darts hit and you went, I'll get to that later? No. Or did that stuff sink?
Oh, those darts sank. One was, so I just gotten this job, which I had 5 CEOs in 7 years, and private equity held businesses that their model is to come in, highly lever a business and sell it for a strong return on equity about 3 to 5 years later. And we had done that successfully. We had created $800 billion in value for the last people that they profited. And so now the new ones were like, do it again. And when we got there, they fired everyone on the leadership team and only kept me. So first you're like, whew. And then you're like, yeah, that's awesome. But then you're like, wow, these people were good people. But it was just this, they don't fit the precise spec, so get rid of them. So you realize how expendable you are. And then I think it was at some moment that, something wasn't going well. And I just was really upset. But then I found they had been recruiting for my job outside because the people they were recruiting were my friends who I'd worked with for 20 years. But then I ultimately went through a 3-day psychological test, reference check, and an aptitude test. I was literally taking math questions, and my score on it would determine whether I kept my job. And so by taking this aptitude test, eventually they were like, wow, congratulations, you're now global president. We're, in addition to the US stuff, which wasn't stressing out enough, we're going to add 7 other countries.
Yeah.
And you need to leave tomorrow for Tokyo. It was not tomorrow, it was like 3 days. So when this awesome thing was, I was like, whoa, look at this. I really got that job. But my daughter, we were out at dinner celebrating, and she said, are you happy, Dad? She's 15. Her name is Lucy. And she said, are you happy? She said, because if you're happy, we'll figure it out. But we just miss you. We just miss you. My middle daughter, Tatum, sunk a real strong one. And she said, Dad, let's get the math. How much more are they paying for you for this? Because I figured it out. We can sell our house. Here's the profit. We're going to buy a house, and then you don't have to work. That's the plan. And so those were 2
middle children.
Oh, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And so between the 2, the heart of we just miss you, I hope you're happy. Inside, I'm thinking, I'm miserable. And then my loving wife said, she's like, you know, Todd, I married you. I could live in a cardboard box. As long as we're together, that's all that matters. So these were very strong signals that the things that mattered were not where I was putting my attention. And where I was putting my attention was a place where it was very sterile business, and it had changed from the business that I had joined before. And so those were signs, and let's just say God kept turning up the volume because I'm a little dense. And he kept being like, let me give a 2x4 and smack you upside the head with certain things. So it definitely, like, God was consistent with me that he had me, he wanted me in a different place.